Arsenal transfer news: Julian Alvarez, Nico Williams and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, three huge attacking targets. Hello everyone, welcome back to Arsenal Updates, your home for the latest Arsenal transfer news, breaking updates, rumours and everything happening around Mikel Arteta and the Gunners. Today we have a massive transfer story to discuss because Arsenal continue to be linked with some of the biggest attacking names in European football. The names being discussed include Julian Alvarez, Nico Williams and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. Three completely different players, but all three could transform Arsenal's attack in different ways. And while Arsenal fans should be careful because not every transfer report means that a deal is close, there is genuine interest surrounding some of these names. The biggest and most concrete story at the moment appears to be Julian Alvarez. Reports in recent months have repeatedly linked Arsenal with the Atletico Madrid forward, and Atletico manager Diego Simeone publicly acknowledged Arsenal's interest earlier this year. Sky Sports reported that Arsenal were among the clubs interested in Alvarez, alongside Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain, while Atletico's valuation was reported at around £130 million. So why would Arsenal want Alvarez? The answer is simple. Mikel Arteta wants an attack capable of competing at the highest possible level. Alvarez is not just a traditional striker. He can operate centrally, drop into midfield, combine with teammates, press aggressively and attack spaces behind defenders. That versatility would be extremely valuable to Arteta. Arsenal already have attacking options, but the arrival of a player like Alvarez could give Arteta another tactical weapon. Imagine Arsenal being able to rotate between different attacking structures without losing intensity. Alvarez could play as the central striker, but he can also operate behind the striker or from wider areas. That makes him particularly attractive to a manager who likes his forwards to interchange positions. And there is another important part of this story. According to a recent Team Talk report, Arsenal remain very interested in Alvarez and believe they are prepared to move quickly if the Argentine decides that he wants to leave Atletico Madrid. The report also claims Sporting Director Andrea Berta has maintained contact with the players' representatives and that Arsenal believe an agreement could be possible if Alvarez becomes available. However, this is where Arsenal fans need to remain realistic. Interest is not the same thing as an agreement. There is still the enormous question of Atletico Madrid's asking price, as well as competition from other European clubs. Barcelona have been heavily involved in the story, and recent reports suggest the situation between Barcelona and Atletico could potentially influence Arsenal's chances. One recent report claimed that Barcelona's position could create an opening for Arsenal if a deal between Barcelona and Atletico fails to materialise. That could become very important. If Atletico are unwilling to sell Alvarez to Barcelona, an English club could potentially become a more attractive destination, and Arsenal would certainly have the financial power to compete. But would Alvarez choose Arsenal? That remains one of the biggest unanswered questions. Now let's move to another name that Arsenal fans have been discussing for a long time: Nico Williams. The Athletic Bilbao winger has been one of the most popular names associated with Arsenal whenever the Gunners are looking for an elite left winger. Williams offers something Arsenal desperately want: explosive pace, 1-versus-1 ability, and the ability to attack defenders directly. He is comfortable receiving the ball wide, driving forward and creating opportunities. And his profile would make sense for Arsenal. Arteta has consistently wanted his wide players to stretch defensive lines, create overloads and attack the opposition full back. Nico Williams can do exactly that. Reports earlier this summer suggested that Arsenal continued to monitor Williams and that the club were exploring several options for the left-wing position. Sportsmole reported that Williams had remained on Arsenal's radar and that the Gunners were looking for additional attacking quality. But again, this is not a case where Arsenal fans should say Nico Williams is definitely signing. There is currently no official confirmation of an agreement. The situation is much better described as Arsenal maintaining interest and considering their options. And that distinction is important, because Arsenal have been linked with several elite wingers. They have looked at different profiles, and the club must decide whether to invest huge money in one superstar or spread the budget across several positions. Williams would be a major statement signing. He would immediately increase Arsenal's pace and directness. Imagine an Arsenal attack featuring Bukayo Saka on one side and Nico Williams on the other. The speed would be frightening. Saka can create from the right while Williams could attack from the left. Both players can beat defenders. Both can create chances. Both can carry the ball over long distances. And both would give Arsenal another way to break down deep defensive blocks. However, there is also the question of Williams' availability, his fitness and the competition for his signature. Those factors mean Arsenal would have to be certain before making a massive investment. And then we arrive at perhaps the most exciting name on the list, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. The Paris Saint-Germain superstar is one of the most technically gifted wingers in world football. Kvaratskhelia is famous for his dribbling, creativity, close control and ability to produce something out of nothing. He can operate from the left wing, move inside and create opportunities for himself and his teammates, and Arsenal have been linked with him. Football Transfers reported earlier this year that Arsenal were considering a summer move for Kvaratskhelia, while other reports have also discussed the possibility of Arsenal pursuing the Georgian international. But there is an important reality here. Kvaratskhelia joined PSG in January 2025, meaning any attempt to bring him to Arsenal would be extremely difficult. PSG would have little reason to sell one of their most talented attacking players unless the financial package was extraordinary. That is why some reports have suggested that Arsenal's chances of actually signing him could be very limited. In fact, Team Talk previously reported that hopes of Arsenal signing Kvaratskhelia had suffered a major blow because of the potential cost of the transfer. So why does his name continue to appear? Because from a football perspective, the fit is obvious. Kvaratskhelia would give Arsenal a winger capable of breaking defensive structures through individual brilliance. Sometimes Arsenal dominate possession but struggle to create the decisive moment. A player like Kvaratskhelia can change that. Give him the ball on the left. Let him isolate a defender. One movement, one dribble, one pass, one shot. Suddenly the entire game changes. That is exactly the type of attacking unpredictability that top clubs want. And there is an interesting connection between the Williams and Kvaratskhelia stories. Both players have been identified as potential solutions to Arsenal's desire for more attacking quality on the left. That does not necessarily mean Arsenal will sign either player. It could mean that Arsenal are simply exploring the market before deciding which player fits their plans best. Former Arsenal striker Jérémy Aliadière even identified both Kvaratskhelia and Nico Williams as players who could be excellent additions to Arsenal, although he also acknowledged the financial realities surrounding such ambitious transfers. So Arsenal have three enormous names in the conversation: Alvarez, Williams, Kvaratskhelia. But what would happen if Arsenal actually managed to sign one of them? Let's start with Alvarez. If Arsenal signed Alvarez, Arteta would gain an elite forward capable of playing multiple positions. He could compete for the striker position while also providing tactical flexibility. The Argentine's pressing ability would also fit the intensity Arsenal want from their forwards. Now imagine Arsenal pressing high with Alvarez leading the line, Saka attacking from the right, and a new left winger attacking from the opposite side. That would give Arsenal an extremely aggressive attacking structure. Now consider Nico Williams. If Arsenal signed Williams, the biggest improvement would probably come from the left side. His pace could force defenders to retreat. That would create more space for Arsenal's midfielders. It could also reduce the pressure on Saka because Arsenal would no longer have to rely so heavily on their right side to produce attacking moments. And then there is Kvaratskhelia. His biggest weapon is creativity. He is the type of player who can turn a normal possession into a dangerous attack. He can carry the ball. He can beat defenders. He can shoot. He can create. And he can operate between the lines. For an Arsenal side that wants to dominate possession, that kind of player could be incredibly valuable. But here is the biggest question. Can Arsenal sign all three? Realistically, that would be incredibly difficult. Even though Arsenal have strengthened their financial position, signing Alvarez, Williams and Kvaratskhelia in the same transfer window would require an enormous financial commitment. The club would also need to consider wages, squad balance, registration rules, and whether all three players are actually available. That is why Arsenal fans should not automatically interpret multiple transfer links as evidence that the club intends to sign all three. Transfer windows are about options. Top clubs monitor multiple players. They negotiate with different agents. They speak to different clubs. They assess prices, and then they make decisions. Arsenal's recruitment strategy under Arteta and sporting director Andrea Berta is therefore likely to involve exactly that process. Identify targets, assess availability, understand the financial package, then decide which deal makes the most sense. And that brings us back to Julian Alvarez. Of these three names, Alvarez currently has some of the strongest reporting connecting him directly with Arsenal. The Atletico Madrid manager himself acknowledged Arsenal's interest, while more recent reports have continued to suggest Arsenal are prepared to explore a major deal if the opportunity arises. That does not mean the transfer is done. It does not mean Alvarez has agreed personal terms. And it certainly does not mean Arsenal have completed a deal. But it does mean this is a story worth watching. The Nico Williams situation is different. Arsenal's interest has been reported for some time, particularly because the club want to improve their options on the wing. But Arsenal have competition and must decide whether Williams is the player they want to prioritise. Kvaratskhelia is perhaps the most difficult deal of the three. His talent is undeniable, but PSG's position and the potential cost make the transfer extremely complicated. So Arsenal fans should watch this space carefully. There could still be twists, there could be unexpected developments, a club could suddenly change its position, a player could push for a move, a transfer target could become available, and Arsenal have shown that they are willing to move aggressively when they identify the right player. One thing is clear, Mikel Arteta does not want Arsenal to stand still. After competing at the highest level, the next challenge is to build an even stronger squad. The Premier League is becoming more competitive. The Champions League demands enormous squad depth, and Arsenal need match winners. That is why names like Alvarez, Williams and Kvaratskhelia continue to generate so much excitement among supporters. Each one represents a different solution. Alvarez represents versatility, goals and elite attacking intelligence. Williams represents speed, width and 1-versus-1 ability. Kvaratskhelia represents creativity, dribbling and unpredictability. If Arsenal can land even one of these players, it could significantly change the dynamic of their attack. But until an official announcement arrives, these stories should remain exactly what they are: transfer interest and negotiations rather than completed deals. For now, the Julian Alvarez situation is the one Arsenal supporters should monitor particularly closely. If Barcelona fail to reach an agreement with Atletico Madrid and Alvarez becomes available to clubs outside Spain, Arsenal could become a serious option. At the same time, Arsenal's search for a winger means Nico Williams remains a name worth watching, and Kvaratskhelia remains the dream-level target whose availability and price could ultimately determine whether anything concrete happens. The summer transfer window is not finished, and Arsenal's attacking plans are clearly not finished either. So Gunners, the big question is this: if you could choose only one, Julian Alvarez, Nico Williams or Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, who would you bring to Arsenal? Would you choose Alvarez to give Arteta another world-class forward? Would you choose Nico Williams to add explosive pace to the left wing? Or would you go for Kvaratskhelia and bring one of Europe's most unpredictable wingers to the Emirates? Let us know your choice in the comments. And remember, Arsenal fans, transfer rumours can change very quickly. We will continue following every major development and separating genuine reports from speculation. If you enjoyed this update, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications and stay with us for all the latest Arsenal transfer news, because this summer could still produce some very big surprises. Come on you Gunners, Arsenal are building for the future, and the next superstar could already be on their transfer shortlist.